I traveled the world as a fashion model, building an incredible career. A beauty pageant wouldn't be complete without excitement and drama. She was an immigrant living the American dream. But how did Melania Trump go from fashion model to First Lady of the United States? That transformation from high fashion runways to the historic halls of the White House remains one of the most curious chapters in modern political life. Melania's story, shrouded in elegance and mystery, began far from the power corridors of Washington. Though she has lived at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, her past is rooted in a small European town that shaped her resolve. And today, we unveil the extraordinary path that brought a Slovenian girl from humble beginnings to the cover of glossy magazines, and eventually into the heart of American power. Melania Trump wasn't always the chic, jet-setting wife of a billionaire president. She began her journey as a girl from a sleepy town with quietly burning dreams. Born on April 26, 1970, in the tiny railroad town of Sevnica, then part of communist Yugoslavia, she was given the name Melania Knavs. Her childhood was a world away from the gleaming chandeliers and high-ceiling ballrooms of the White House. Her home overlooked a peaceful river and the smokestacks of nearby factories. But even then, the quiet town felt too small for a girl with ambitions that reached far beyond the horizon. A childhood friend, Jana Jelancic, once said, "Sevnica was always too small for Melania. She dreamed of something bigger, of someplace far beyond." Those dreams took shape in discipline. Melania was known as an excellent student, organized, respectful, and exceptionally well-mannered, qualities that would later define her poised presence as First Lady. Her longing to explore the world pushed her to leave Sevnica and move to the capital, Ljubljana, where she enrolled in high school and began a new chapter. It was there, in the heart of Slovenia, on an ordinary day in Ljubljana, that fate intervened. While walking down a city street, she caught the attention of a photographer, a single moment that altered her destiny. At just 16 years old, Melania began her modeling career, a journey that would one day take her across continents, into the heart of the fashion world, and eventually, into the White House. She journeyed across Europe, mastering multiple languages along the way: German, French, Italian, and English. Not bad for a girl from a quiet Slovenian town where most people never even left the country. Her sophistication grew with every border she crossed, and so did her sense of independence. The photographer who had discovered her years earlier still remembered her striking presence. "She was tall, very tall, and breathtaking," said Jerko. But even in those early days, Melania rarely smiled for the camera. Stain, who worked closely with her in the early modeling years, believed it wasn't arrogance. It was shyness, maybe even fear. Yet she pushed past those insecurities and bravely stepped into the photographer's studio, a single decision that would open an entirely new world of opportunities for the once reserved girl from Sevnica. Fueled by dreams bigger than her small-town beginnings, Melania rebranded herself as Melania Naus, a name that felt global, polished, and ready for the world stage. In 1990, she crossed another border, this time into the United States, landing in the heart of Manhattan to chase something even greater: the American dream. What began as photo shoots and castings in New York quickly evolved into something far more life-changing. A few years later, at a glitzy Fashion Week party at the Kit Kat Club, she met a man who would change her destiny forever: Donald J. Trump. They married in 2005 in a lavish ceremony, and in 2006, she gave birth to their only son, Barron. Back in her hometown, the news shocked many. A girl from Sevnica had married one of the richest, most polarizing figures in America, a man 24 years her senior. But in time, they came to accept it. Noting something uncanny, there was something familiar about Trump, they said, something that reminded them of her father, Viktor Knavs. Viktor had once been a member of the Communist Party, not uncommon in Yugoslavia at the time. Many joined not just out of ideology, but because it opened doors in careers in government-controlled systems. In 2016, GQ magazine unearthed a hidden truth. Melania had a half-brother from her father's previous relationship, a man she had never met. A quiet detail from a complicated past that even she had never spoken about. But like many things in Melania's life, some pieces remained behind closed doors, elegant, untouched, and enigmatic. Melania's father, Victor, once had a son with a woman named Maria Sheglanak. He denied being the boy's father and refused to pay child support, leading to a brutal legal battle. Court records revealed that a paternity test had been requested to prove that the boy was indeed Victor's biological son. Though Victor was eventually ordered by the court to pay child support, he never publicly acknowledged the boy, Denis Sheglanak, now in his 50s. Denis's mother passed away in a small town called Hrasnik, where Denis still lives in a modest apartment. Denny told GQ that he wouldn't mind meeting his half-sisters, Melania and Inez, but was initially too afraid to contact the Knobs family. Melania denied the story to GQ, but after seeing the court documents, she admitted she had known about it for years and asked for her father's privacy to be respected. Melania's mother, Amalaja, was a resourceful and determined woman. She began by harvesting red onions on the family farm, but eventually worked her way into a job at the town's textile factory. She was determined that her daughter's clothing would leave a strong impression, so she sewed dresses for Melania and her sister after her shifts. It made perfect sense that Melania became obsessed with fashion as a teenager. As she got older, Melania and her sister Inez would turn heads wherever they went, known for their clothes and makeup. Melania listened to The Cure and Metallica, and often hung out at a local bar in Ljubljana called Horse's Trail with other young music lovers. After finishing high school, Melania enrolled in architecture school, but didn't finish. Her Facebook profile once claimed she earned a degree from a university in Slovenia, but she later changed that version in a more recent biography. According to NBC, her 2016 biography stated she had paused her studies to pursue modeling in Milan and Paris, without confirming whether she ever graduated. Professor Blaž Matija Vogel of the University of Ljubljana told NBC that Melania had not finished her education and did not graduate, at least not from his institution. But she certainly wasn't the first to enhance her resume with a few alternative facts. Her rise in fashion had already begun. Melania's very first real photo shoot happened in 1987. Photographer Stane Jurko recalled how she brought a full suitcase of outfits to the session. She was shy, but followed instructions well. He believed she had a future in front of the camera. 2 weeks later, she shot barefoot in a black and white shoe catalog with the same photographer. The barefoot style wasn't a fashion statement. Jurko simply didn't have shoes big enough to fit her size 9 feet. Jurko joked, "When you live on big feet, you live big." That turned out to be true. In 1992, Melania placed second in a modeling contest called Slovenia's Look of the Year. She decided to invest in her career and moved to Milan and then Paris. When she left, she cut ties with her old life. Friends said they stopped hearing from her, that she had stepped out of line and into a whole new world. In '96, her agent, Sam Poli, helped her secure a visa to the United States. And the rest, as they say, is history. Her modeling contract in the US and the visa she aimed for came with great hopes. But modeling in New York wasn't easy, especially at age 26, which was already considered old by fashion industry standards. For a model in her late 20s, the rejection could feel personal. Her older Italian roommate recalled that the industry was far from kind. Both women at that age felt invisible. Melania often wondered why photographers chose others over her. She was constantly losing work to younger, fresher faces. She auditioned tirelessly, chasing every possible gig, but couldn't land the show she wanted. For someone who had already tasted success in Europe, it was a bitter pill. Her roommate said she struggled to make enough to live on. She feared the best years of her life had already passed, like the small town she'd left in her rearview mirror. But Melania pushed back. When asked years later, she firmly told GQ, "My pictures speak for themselves." She said her portfolio included the best jobs, even ads for cigarettes and alcohol, gigs her younger rivals weren't legally allowed to do. But not everyone believed her success was natural. Her roommate claimed she had undergone cosmetic surgery to boost her chances in lingerie ads. Melania dismissed the accusation with a scoff. "People say I do this or that to my face," she said. "I never did anything. I just take care of myself." Her goal, she said, was to age gracefully, like her mother. In New York, she took long walks with ankle weights and ate 7 pieces of fruit a day. She wasn't into the party scene. Instead, she went home early, focused on beauty and rest. Then, in 1998, everything changed. One invitation to a Manhattan nightclub called Kit Kat would alter her life forever. That night, she met a man who would become her husband. They would have a son and live in a grand white house. But it didn't start that way. When the billionaire approached her and asked for her number, Melania said no. According to her, she flipped the script. "I asked for his number instead," she recalled. He gave her every possible way to reach him. He wanted her to call. She waited a week before she did. After that fateful night, Melania started turning heads. One daring photo shoot soon landed her the cover of British GQ in January 2000. Unsurprisingly, her future husband had suggested the shoot. GQ later confirmed the photos were sent directly to his office. To Melania, it was one of her proudest professional moments. Fast forward to 2005. Melania married in a lavish ceremony at Bethesda by the Sea Episcopal Church in Palm Beach, followed by a reception at Mar-a-Lago. She wore a white Christian Dior satin gown with a 16-foot veil. In 2006, she gave birth to their son, Barron. The family lived luxuriously in Trump Tower until her husband became president of the United States. In fact, Melania felt so comfortable in Trump Tower that she remained there even after her husband moved into the White House. She tried her hand at business, launching a jewelry line on QVC. Unfortunately, it didn't last. Later, she launched a skincare brand, which ended in a lawsuit. She sued her business partner for $50 million. The case was settled privately. Now, Melania holds a unique title, the first foreign-born First Lady of the United States since Louisa Adams in 1825. A former fashion model who once struggled in silence, Melania's life story continues to fascinate, a tale of beauty, ambition, reinvention, and quiet power. Melania lives a private life, with only a select few allowed into her inner circle. Beyond making statements through her wardrobe, like the infamous "I really don't care" jacket, Melania remained content with staying silent about her time in the White House. But that silence may be ending with a new unauthorized biography titled Free Melania. The book reveals that Melania had her own bedroom in the White House and dives into the infamous hand swat incident on the runway in Tel Aviv. The biography tells all, down to the fact that the Trumps once considered getting a dog. Melania even went as far as researching different breeds, but ultimately, the couple decided against bringing a dog into the White House. Many people have speculated that Melania is a prisoner of her marriage and her husband's presidency. That's what led to the popular hashtag #FreeMelania. But Kate Bennett, author of Free Melania, argues the opposite. That's why she added a comma to the title, to suggest Melania might actually be the freest person in the Trump orbit. She's certainly unlike any other First Lady we've ever seen. But what do you think? Was Melania free to be herself as First Lady of the United States? Or do you think the #Free Melania movement had a point, that she was trapped in a life with no way out? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to American Adventure for more.